Hi everyone, my name is Nick James and I'm a pre-service teacher. Today I'll be presenting to you my Holistic Assessment Task 3. In this presentation, I'll be showcasing the principles that I believe are most important to maintaining a positive learning environment and the factors that have influenced my rationale, such as learning theories and AITSL standards. The platform I've decided to use for my assignment is a PowerPoint presentation, which I'll be running through shortly and narrating throughout. So in terms of assessing the evolution of my pedagogical stance, that was quite easy to do because during my intensive week of classes in February, we were asked to actually write down what our theory and use was at that preliminary stage, and I held on to my document. So as you'd expect, my views were pretty crude at this point. I mainly just spoke about having fun in the classroom, enjoyment, and respecting your students. But obviously my theory and use and my views in the classroom have evolved a lot over the course of this trimester, as I've come to learn about a range of factors and principles which can impact on classroom environment. But for the purpose of our assignment, I'll just be focusing on the 5 overarching principles. So the first principle I believe is crucial to creating a positive learning environment is that it needs to be inclusive. Inclusivity is fundamental to optimal teaching outcomes because a student is more likely to be motivated to learn and to connect with the content if they feel a sense of inclusion and belonging within the learning environment. Inclusivity can be promoted in a number of ways, with a primary avenue being student collaboration. According to Johnson, carefully structured student-student interdependence can lead to students achieving at a higher level, having higher levels of academic motivation, and being more intrinsically motivated to learn the content. Student collaboration also promotes a number of other positive classroom attributes, such as problem solving and higher thinking amongst students, while also enhancing student engagement. A notable theorist who supported these views was Vygotsky and his social development theory. Vygotsky viewed cognitive development as an ongoing process which occurs along a spectrum that is strongly shaped by social influences. He believed that children are scaffolded by adults and their peers. The AITSL standard, which best reflects inclusiveness and collaboration, is number 4, to create and maintain supportive and safe learning environments. The substandard within this is to identify strategies to support inclusive student participation and engagement, which really encompasses what I would strive for as a teacher. In terms of application of this principle, this can most easily be done in the manner you plan for learning and prepare your lessons. Ensuring certain activities are undertaken collaboratively and that students work in an interdependent manner will ensure inclusivity in your classroom. The second overarching principle I believe is central to a positive classroom environment is the promotion of a growth mindset, which is the notion that all students are capable of learning and understanding the content, regardless of their natural aptitude or their inclinations. This is contrary to a fixed mindset, which views students as having predetermined intelligence. Maintaining this growth mindset is important as a teacher, as it ensures that you maintain belief in the capability of all your students and thus will be motivated in your teaching. Furthermore, this sense of capability and motivation will typically filter down to students, who will in turn have more belief in their own capabilities and further invest in their learning. A relevant theoretical model which supports a growth mindset is the theory of positive psychology, otherwise known as the PERMA model. Positive psychology maximizes the growth of students as it optimizes student satisfaction and engagement within the classroom. The PERMA model was introduced as an avenue to measure and maintain positivity within the classroom. The 5 elements of this model are positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. In terms of AITSL standards, growth mindset and positive psychology are reflected in numbers 1 and 4, to know students and how they learn, and to create and maintain supportive and safe learning environments. The substandard in which positive psychology is embedded is to establish and implement positive interactions to engage and support all students. A growth mindset is most easily implemented in planning for learning and classroom routines and rituals. It is not something that is found in overt or distinct gestures. It is more a theme that should be ever present in classroom activities and interactions. A third principle for creating a positive classroom environment is an emphasis on student-centered learning. Student-centered learning involves creating an environment where students are at the forefront, They are more involved in the learning process and are afforded a greater role in determining the nature and direction of their learning. Student-centered learning was popularised after it became clear that learning is more likely to take place in contexts that are relevant to the learner. A further benefit of student-centered learning is that it can lead to enhanced motivation for the student, as they typically feel a degree of investment in their own learning, as they've played a role in determining its nature. Student-centered learning is derived from constructivist theories. Constructivism is the notion that students construct their own understanding and knowledge of the world based on their own experiences and reflection. In order to provide for students to build on their knowledge, constructivism suggests that teachers need to incorporate authentic, collaborative and reflective learning experiences into their classes. Student-centered learning is encompassed in a number of the AITSL standards, most notably numbers 1 and 2. Know students and how they learn, and know the content and how to teach it. Specifically, the substandard which best reflects this is to plan lesson sequences using knowledge of and collaboration with students, which incorporates effective teaching strategies. It is most important that student-centered learning is reflected in assessment. Students should be assessed via a platform that allows them to adequately demonstrate their knowledge. Furthermore, where possible, assessments should be presented in real-life contexts that are relevant to the learner and allow them to apply what they've learned. The fourth overarching principle I would look to maintain is tailoring the learning I provide for students to meet their individual needs, otherwise known as differentiated instruction. Differentiated learning is important as it ensures content is modulated in a way that enhances student ability to acquire, process and make sense of it. A differentiated learning environment provides for all students to be adequately challenged and thus enhances their engagement, but it also provides scope for students to experience success. Specifically, teaching is usually differentiated through materials, resources and assessment measures, and is shown to achieve far greater learning outcomes compared to a one-size-fits-all approach. There are a number of learning theories which give rise to the development of differentiated learning. Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences outlined the 8 distinct intelligences that humans possess, which directly impacts how they learn. Furthermore, developmental considerations concerning brain hemispheres are also relevant. The brain consists of complementary hemispheres which influence how a student perceives information and which teaching strategies are likely to resonate with them. The AITSL standard that promotes differentiated learning is undoubtedly standard 1, to know students and how they learn. Specifically, the pertinent substandard is to differentiate teaching to meet the specific learning needs of students across a full range of abilities. Differentiated learning is best implemented through assessment. Assessment should be continuous and ongoing so that it can act as a constant stream of feedback to the teacher, indicating what's working within the classroom and what isn't. This in turn will allow the teacher to continue to modulate their lessons and achieve optimal learning outcomes. The final principle I believe is central to positive learning environment is the maintenance of a democratic learning environment. This is an approach to the classroom management where rules and consequences are clearly defined so as not to appear arbitrary, and students are typically given a say in determining what these guidelines will be. Students are still afforded the freedom to make choices in a democratic classroom, as distinct from a dictatorial approach. This approach is ideal as it promotes a sense of equity and fairness amongst the classroom, which students typically respect and respond positively to. The concept of a democratic learning environment is reflected in pragmatist learning theories and progressive education. Specifically, noted theorist John Dewey's views of the classroom were deeply rooted in democratic ideals, which promoted equal voice amongst all participants in the learning environment. Democratic learning is a fairly progressive theory, so as such there is no obvious reference or promotion of it in the AITSL standards. You could argue that there are suggestions of it in the 3rd standard, to plan for and implement effective learning and teaching. A democratic approach is best implemented in planning for learning. Students and teacher can work together at the beginning of the year to democratically draw up guidelines concerning learning and conduct expectations and rituals. Where possible, teachers should look to allow students freedom to make decisions rather than dictating to them. There you can see my references. As you can imagine, there are a number of principles which can contribute to a positive learning environment, and it's a fairly subjective sort of question, but those are the 5 that I believe are the most important. Thanks for listening.